Welcome back to our service. The man who used to be the biggest name in comedy now lives on a ranch in Nebraska, and he's finally ready to say why he quit. Dan Lawrence Whitney was born in Pond City, Nebraska, on February 17, 1963. He is best known as Larry the Cable Guy. He grew up on an 80-acre farm, where life was hard work and simple joys. Tom Whitney, his dad, was a preacher and used to play guitar for the Everly Brothers. Shirley, his mother, ran the house. In many ways, their life in the small town was normal, but it gave Larry the skills that would later shape his comedy. Their move to West Palm Beach, Florida, when he was 16 changed everything. The situation Larry was in changed completely when his dad got a job as a school director. And he finished from Berean Christian School in 1982. In high school, he played football. It was time for college. He started at the Baptist University of America in Georgia, and then moved on to the University of Nebraska-Lincoln to study speech and acting. When they were in college, something strange happened. Larry's roommates from Texas and Georgia had strong Southern accents, so he started mimicking them as a joke. It stuck after a while. Despite always being funny, this new sound helped him stand out. He didn't finish college. What he wanted to do was clear by his junior year. He was starving for comedy and didn't want to wait. Later that decade, Larry got his big break in radio. He started going on the Ron and Ron Show and the Bob and Tom Show as a guest. Nevertheless, he did not carry on as himself. He made up a character instead, Larry, the Cable Guy. He was rude, had strong opinions, and used over-the-top Southern humor all the time. Many crazy things happened in his stories. A lot of people laughed at his catchphrases because of his thick accent. One of those lines, "Get her done," would become his signature quick. People really liked him. He started doing shows as Larry the Cable Guy on stage because his radio parts were so well-liked. He was booked under that name for the first time in 1995. The character wasn't just a radio bit after that. It was his name. He later said the accent was something he could do or not do, but his fans didn't care. He told stories based on true events, and his humor struck a chord with people in a way that felt real. Larry practiced his act for years in dive bars all over the country. His jokes were always about living in a small town in America, family quirks, the problems of the working class, and the weird things that happen every day in the country. He could make a light-hearted comment about something as easy as a Snuggie. His jokes weren't hard to understand. It was clear, friendly, and fun to read. There was Larry the Cable Guy all the time from 2000 to 2006. He was a well-known comedian because of the Blue Collar Comedy Tour. He and Jeff Foxworthy and Ron White helped make a simple stand-up show a huge hit. They did more than 100 shows a year and made more than $15 million each year. We weren't just making jokes. It was an attempt to connect with a group of people who didn't always see themselves in popular entertainment. A big group of them came to see Larry because he spoke their language. Omaha, Nebraska, hosted the first show on January 14, 2000. Not surprisingly, all 7,500 tickets were sold out. From March 2005 until the end of the tour at the Warner Theater in Washington, D.C., they had played 124 shows for almost 500,000 people and made over $16 million just from ticket sales. The tour wasn't just live shows, though. It caused DVDs, TV shows, and even Blue Collar Radio, a real satellite radio channel. When Blue Collar Comedy Tour came out in 2003, it didn't do very well at the box office, but it became a fan favorite. Not only that, but Larry's motto, "Get her done," became part of popular culture in the United States. Comedians on tour showed that stand-up could be as popular as big music festivals. Comedians were no longer playing small clubs, they were filling stadiums. Larry became one of the most well-known comics in America thanks to his open shirts and thick Southern draw. They weren't all fans, though. Some people said that Larry's portrayal of a hick was too based on stereotypes. His jokes were usually about shooting accidents, crazy family get-togethers, and over-the-top country life. They thought he was reinforcing bad stereotypes about people who live in rural areas. But his friends didn't agree. They didn't believe he was making fun of them. The others thought he was one of them. Living in the country didn't make him laugh. It was a party. He used everyday problems to make people laugh. People saw him as more than just funny. His personality was likable. Some people thought what he did was crude, but others saw it as a proud show of independence and pride. What was clear was that people either liked or didn't like him. American humor took offense to him. As Larry went on tour, He also became one of the best-selling comics in music. People first heard his mix of silly and serious views on his 2001 album, Lord I Apologize. What happened next was the right to bear guns in 2005. It got to number 7 on the Billboard 200 right away, which is pretty good for a comedy record. These records were both platinum hits, which is becoming less common as digital downloads become more popular. Sales weren't the only thing that made it work. It was nominated for a Grammy in 2006 for Best Comedy Record. That Larry wasn't just a niche act. It was normal for him. He was the biggest star in the world and sold out stadiums everywhere. Then came 2006, which made Larry an even better known name. In Cars, Pixar hired him to play Matter, the funny and likable tow truck. The movie made over $1 billion around the world, making it a huge success. It sparked 2 sequels, Cars 2 in 2011 and Cars 3 in 2017, and millions of items were sold. Mater became one of viewers' favorite Pixar figures very quickly. His famous line, "My name's M, like Tom, but without the 2, was easy for kids and adults to remember. Larry is said to have made more than $5 million just for doing Mater's voice in the first movie. It meant a lot to him to know that his kids would always have something to remember him by. The movies weren't the end of Mater. There were spin-offs, theme park rides, and even the Disney Plus show Cars on the Road with this figure. Larry's voice kept showing up in the series. It was a surprise for a comic who was known for stand-up, but it showed he could do more than one thing. He was funny to a room full of adults one night and to millions of kids the next. It was followed by Only in America. There was one on the History Channel from February 8, 2011, until 2013. In every episode, he went on a new adventure where he had to deal with strange jobs and American customs. He caught alligators, made booze in the woods, and even rode with the Hells Angels. Every show began with his catchphrase, "Listen up, America. I'm Larry the Cable Guy, and I love this country." 4.1 million people watched the first episode, Larry Makes Moonshine. That set the stage for 3 crazy seasons. People who liked him saw him work as a fishmonger, train with U.S. Army shooters, and help build a castle in the Middle Ages. It was hard to guess what would happen on the show, and it was sometimes funny. Larry was able to connect with the people he met, even when things got really bad. This made everyday things special. Despite looking like a lot of fun, the show had a price. Larry had to be on the road 6 days a week for filming. The show began when his boys were 5 and 6 years old. He wasn't there to see them reach important milestones while he was shooting. He missed important school events and times with his family, and the time spent apart made his marriage stronger. There was no doubt that Only in America was a hit. But behind the scenes, Larry was having a hard time with all of his travel and the stress of keeping up with his busy routine. After that, the Port Audi incident in 2012 happened. There were many crazy things Larry had done for the show before this. It was too much for him to clean fare bags. Afterward, he said it was the grossest thing I'd ever done. Although the event became popular, Larry saw it as more than just another stunt. He had to check himself and see how far he was ready to go for fun. Even though millions of people watched, he decided to leave after the 3rd season. The show did well, but he shouldn't have missed his kids' early years. Instead of chasing numbers for another year, he wanted to be there for them. There was an ongoing effect from Only in America. Fans still watch old episodes, and Larry's show is still one of his most successful solo projects. But he picked family over fame in the end. That was the smartest thing he could have done. Daniel Lawrence Whitney, better known as Larry, the Cable Guy, made a living by making people laugh. He has been shaped by family, sacrifice, and a strong desire to give back when he is not in the center. That story is mostly about his journey with his wife, Cara Whitney. Larry worked on his comedy business in Los Angeles in 2004. A radio DJ from Wisconsin named Carrera had grown up on a cow ranch, and they met there. It was instant for them to connect. A strange detail was one of the things that brought them together. The smell of cattle trucks is nice to both of them. In just 1 year, on July 3, 2005, they got married. They picked a simple wedding instead of a big production in Hollywood. The wedding took place in Nebraska in a field. Simply put, it was laid back and inexpensive at $180. Who they were was shown by their decisions. Carrera never liked being the center of attention. She eventually quit radio to focus on writing, helping others, and raising their family. Larry's job was going great, but it wasn't free. He was moving a lot, and doing up to 287 shows a year. He missed important events in his children's lives. His kids were Wyatt and Reagan. That was with Carrera. And Carrera saw how busy Larry was and how little time he had to spend with them. She told him that he should spend less time touring and more time with his family. A big change happened to him in 2015. He went from doing almost 300 shows a year to doing less than 25. Because he made that choice, he could spend more time with his kids at their ranch in Nebraska. The childhoods of Wyatt and Reagan were not typical. As kids, their dad took them on tour buses to see different parts of the country. Larry meant the most to them as a father, being there for them when they needed him. Larry's love for his family went beyond the walls of his own home. In 2009, he and Cara started the Get Ardone Foundation to help people in need with the money he had made. Over $7 million has been given by the organization to hospitals for children, groups for veterans, and families who are having medical problems. They gave $5 million to Arnold Palmer Hospital for Children to help study and treat hip dysplasia, which was a cause close to their hearts. Helping people get the care they need. The fund has also given money to Operation Homefront for military families and the Madonna Rehabilitation Hospital. Larry used to make a lot of money as a comedian in the United States. His yearly income was about $50 million from 2006 to 2012. His over-the-top redneck character and the phrase, "Get our done," made him famous. All over the country, from small comedy clubs to huge stadiums, he sold out every show. He did a show in a football stadium in 2009, which wasn't done by another comic until Kevin Hart in 2015. He was successful in more than just stand-up. He made even more money when both of his records, Lord I Apologize and The Right to Bear Arms, went gold. Additionally, there were supporter statements. He had a deal worth tens of millions of dollars with Prilock OTC, a medicine for heartburn. He put all that money into real estate. He gained a house worth $3.6 million in North Scottsdale, Arizona, in 2016. The house had a golf course, a pool with a spa for bedrooms, and a kitchen outside. He was living it up, but some people didn't like it. Others said it was funny that a comic who is worth a lot of money was still trying to project an image of a blue-collar worker. Then trouble started. The IRS began to look into his funds and question the tax breaks he was taking. His trucker hats and flannel shirts with no sleeves were part of his act. He said they were work costs. The IRS didn't believe it, though. They said they weren't right unless he only wore them on stage. It took a long time and cost a lot of money for his lawyers to try to defend the write-offs. When 2014 came around, he had another court issue. He broke the deal by canceling several shows because he was too tired, so the promoters sued him. According to them, the delays cost them a lot of money. At his best, Larry did non-stop tours, advertising deals, and movie projects at the same time. The stress never stopped, and it was hard. His team protected him by saying he needed a break, but some fans and promoters didn't agree. Following that, everything altered. After 2015, 60% fewer people chose to work with him. The comedy was changing. Younger people started to like comics like Hannah Gadsby and Bo Burnham, whose jokes were more about personal experiences and social problems. The over-the-top redneck role that Larry was playing wasn't working as well as it used to. Being sensitive to other cultures was becoming more important, and his sense of fun didn't fit in. Even though he kept doing stand-up, his later shows, like Remain Seated in 2020, weren't as popular. He was earning $50 million a year at one point. He had a huge following in the comedy world. But things changed, and the people who used to pack arenas to see him started looking for something else. Larry has never been embarrassed to say what he thinks. But he said one of the weirdest things about a candidate for president in 2016. He said on Fox and Friends, "I'm a Trump man. No, I mean Gary Johnson when I say Trump man." Afterward, he added a joke that people remembered. "Now I have to decide. Do I want to poop my pants or do I want someone else to do it? My choice is to poop my own pants." It was a strange way for him to explain why he was mad at both Trump and Clinton. He didn't fully back Trump, but he also didn't like Clinton. As a result, Johnson, the Libertarian candidate, was his first choice. People were talking about what he said. Others were confused and laughed. Even Johnson's team replied on Twitter, asking him to talk more about his ideas. Larry wasn't actually joking. He was talking about how angry he was with politics in 2016. Besides Colin Kaepernick's protests during the national anthem, he talked about other things as well. He supported Kaepernick's right to protest, even though he didn't agree with his choice to sit. Larry was a fascinating person because he could see things from both sides. This was especially true since many of his friends were strong Trump supporters. Others thought he should have fully backed Trump, while others liked how honest he was. People began to argue about whether or not famous endorsements, especially ones that are meant to be funny, really do affect voters. Some people thought that Larry's words showed how many Americans thought the election was a mistake. Others thought he was just being funny either way. He was still in the political conversation because of his strange support, which made the news. Later, in February 2023, he was involved in another political scandal. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, a Republican, during President Joe Biden's State of the Union speech this time. During his speech, Greene yelled and waved her arms at him. Larry wrote on Twitter that her act was like every comedian's ex-girlfriend coming to their show 6 days after the breakup and sitting in the back. The joke upset some of his religious followers. Many people said that he was targeting Greene unfairly. Others even said he was woke. Larry spoke out right away to protect himself. This was not a joke about politics. Not believing it. Get some light in your life. Honestly, he replied on Twitter. Even though there was reaction, he wasn't totally against Greene. He praised her bravery, but told her she might benefit from speech classes. This fair view, which made fun of her while also showing support, made the argument stronger. He had a split fan base. Some fought for him. Some people wondered where he really stood on politics. The debate came as a surprise because Larry has always been liked by conservatives. He was getting flack from his own fans, which showed how touchy political issues had become. Something as innocent as a joke could provoke a heated argument. Besides these times, Larry has also spoken out about comedy and free speech. He has said that artists should be able to joke about anything without worrying about getting in trouble for it. He said in comments that people are too sensitive now and that jokes that used to make people laugh are now seen as offensive. With his libertarian ideas, he agreed with what he said. People have said he is hypocritical because he supports personal freedom and doesn't like any kind of control. He fights against the power of corporations in politics and the media, but he has also been a sponsor for Prylock OTC for a long time. Some critics say that taking money from corporations makes it harder for him to say that he supports free thought. Larry doesn't agree. He says donations let him help causes that are important to him. His charity Run Nation has raised a lot of money for kids and soldiers. Work with brands is a way for him to pay for good projects, not a sign that he's given up. But the argument goes on. Does getting money from corporations make his message less strong? Or is he just being honest while still being good at business? Larry made a living by doing loud, silly humor. For all of his jokes and famous "get our done" phrase, he had real health problems that almost cost him everything. When he reached 240 pounds, his weight was really making things hard for him. Being unable to breathe at night was hard because of sleep apnea. Every act was hard because of joint pain. He was hurt, tired, and stuck in a pattern that seemed to get worse over time. A lot of people who are overweight have sleep apnea. The airway gets smaller around fat in the throat, which causes it to close up while you sleep. That meant that Larry would stop breathing many times during the night. Every morning, he was knackered. He was still tired the next day, which made it harder for him to concentrate, move, and be himself. The joint pain made things worse. Doing something needed energy. He had physical habits that were full of movement and life. There was pain in every step and every jump, though. It got heavier as he moved less. Things went from bad to worse as the weight was stored. He could no longer stand the pain in his hip by 2018. He had to have surgery. People who have hurt their joints often need hip replacements, but it's not easy to get better. He took painkillers that a doctor prescribed, which had some risks. Opioids have a lot of power. Even though they dull the pain, they can also take charge. About 35% of people who have had a hip replacement still use opioids 6 months after the surgery, according to studies. Some people find it hard to stop, even when the pain is gone. People began to say that Larry wasn't just taking the pills for his hip, but also to deal with stress. He didn't seem to have a major problem, but it showed how quickly painkillers can become something more dangerous. Another problem took over by 2020. Anxiety. Larry didn't look scared on stage. He felt pressured to keep his show fresh and funny when he wasn't on stage, though. He used to have fear attacks before big shows. The world was different now. Funny things were changing. Live shows had to stop because of the pandemic. People were interested in a different kind of fun. Larry began to think he was being left behind. He made a name for himself by having a loud, rude, and arrogant style. But the business was moving toward materials that were safer. His worry was made worse by his fear of becoming irrelevant. Outside, he was having a hard time keeping up with his acting career as the carefree comic. It was easier to hide some problems than others. One of the strangest events in his life became public in 2012. A tour stop had a porta potty that fell over, trapping him inside. For him, what started out as a gross but funny story got much worse. For years, the event stuck with him. The fear, the feeling of being trapped, and the shame didn't go away. Later, he said that the event caused him to develop post-traumatic stress disorder. The anxiety came back with even small memories. It was weird to have to deal with, but pain doesn't always come from where people think it will. By 2019, it wasn't just his job and health that were in danger. It was enough for his wife, Carrera. Their marriage was about to end because he was constantly performing and his health was getting worse. She gave him a choice: alter or lose his family. His job came first for many years. He needed to decide now. He stopped going to as many shows and spent more time with their 2 kids. We were woken up. His busy schedule couldn't keep up with his current way of life. Something needed to give. That was followed by another blow. Some of the comedy shows he had planned for after 2020 were canceled. The kind of humor that made him famous was becoming less popular in popular culture. Networks were scared to take chances. There were changes in the comedy, and Larry had to figure out where he fit in. He worked on smaller venues and internet platforms instead of trying to get big network deals. He changed how he did things without changing who he was. He wasn't doing as many big shows as he used to, but he still had fans. There was still sound in his voice. He only needed to use it in a different way. Larry laughed a lot of people out in stadiums that were packed for years. He now works on a ranch in Nebraska, where he takes care of horses and puts on charity rodeos. He thinks it's the right time for this big change. He's always loved living in the country, and now he can share that love with the people in his neighborhood. His ranch isn't just a place to relax anymore. It gives him a chance to thank the people who have helped him over the years while also keeping in touch with them. He absolutely adores rodeo. For many years, he has put money into professional bull rider (PBR) events. He even co-owned Chicken on a Chain, a world champion bull that became a name in the sport. At a PBR event in Lincoln, Nebraska, in April 2024, he showed off another star bull named Mr. Adding to the excitement. He offered $10,000 to anyone who could stay on for all 8 seconds. Supporters stood up and were told that Larry isn't just a spectator. He has a role to play. His ranch and horse work keep him in the public eye even though he has taken a break from public life. He loves comedy, but the role that made him popular has been hard for him. The radio show Larry the Cable Guy began as a simple sketch, but it quickly became his whole life. He became known on and off stage as the loud, over-the-top Southern man. In conversations, he has said that it got too much for him. All the time, I was Larry. My soul was eaten by it. He famously said that the character made him successful, but also held him back. Many reviewers thought he was one-dimensional, even after he was in Pixar's Cars and hosted only in America. He is getting ready for a Netflix show that might make everything different. He could be showing a different side of himself, or he could be saying goodbye to the persona that made him popular. In either case, Larry the Cable Guy isn't going away.